Hello everyone, this is Grace. It is October the 29th, 2023, and we are continuing our study on the Nazarite Vow. And we left off at Acts 15, verse 24. Let's go ahead and reread this. For as much as we... my computer... Okay. For as much as we have heard that certain which went out from us have troubled you with words, subverting your souls, saying ye must be circumcised and keep the law, to whom we gave no such commandment, it seemed good unto us, being assembled with one accord, to send chosen men unto you, with our beloved Barnabas and Paul, men that have hazarded their lives for the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. We have sent therefore Judas and Silas, who shall also tell you the same things by mouth. So basically they're telling them that it is not needful for them to keep the law of circumcision. And we established in the previous video that circumcision was not a law, and it was never a law. And that is the reason why they keep repeating that it's a law in this chapter, and to keep the law. They're not talking about not keeping the Ten Commandments or the laws of God or any of the laws that went past the because there are laws that were for Moses and his generation, meaning his son, him and his son, maybe his son's son at the most, but I think it was just like 2 generations, but I'm not certain about that. But then there are also laws that have that word eon there, where it says forever, throughout your generations, but throughout the generations or something like that, which go on until completion, of course, for the feast days, and then pretty much forever for anything else. Okay, but the feast days go on until completion, and none of them are complete except the wave offering. And the Passover supper, of course, was complete because Jesus came as the groom. But then he took that into the future with the communion. But anyway, let's move on. I was trying to recap and I got lost talking about different things. The point is that they are establishing that the only 2 customs that need to be kept is that you're not supposed to eat food that's polluted by idols, and you're not supposed to fornicate. Neither of which can be a law, because everyone knows that you keep the law. They have to be like customs or unknown laws that are written. But Paul said he eats food polluted by, that he will eat food that's sacrificed to idols. So we don't really know what this means. Pollutions of idols. But they're going to interpret it as food sacrificed to idols. So let's go on. We have sent therefore Judas and Silas, who shall also tell you the same things by mouth. For it seemed good to the Holy Ghost and to us to lay upon you no greater burden than these necessary things, that ye abstain from meats offered to idols. That's the first one. This is the way they translated pollutions of idols. And then there's fornications as well. And from blood, and from things strangled, and from fornication, and from fornication, from which if ye keep yourself, ye shall do well, fare you well. So they're telling them what to do in order to take care of themselves. Okay? They will do well if they abstain from doing these things. This is where I discovered that this was a lie as well. If you look at it, the way it's written up here, it's written, and I write to you unto them that they abstain from pollutions of idols and from fornication. There should have been a period there, but they added an and things strangled, which is first, and from blood, which is second. So it's kind of hard to determine exactly what's being said there. Because when you think of blood, you think of an animal that's not strangled. And so you kind of want to say things from being strangled and from blood. But it could just mean drinking blood. So, hey, whatever. I mean, but then when you get down here, everything is mixed up. It's abstained from meat offered to idols. Then blood, which was last, is now placed second. And for things strangled, so these two are opposite. And this is now last. All they did was they took this and they put it in between the two instead of at the end here. And they transposed the two. Just total carelessness. Just total carelessness. This is not the way the Bible works. This is not true. This wasn't in the Bible written like this. This is madness. What? How are you going to say idols, then fornication, and then turn around? How are you going to say? How are you going to say pollutions of idols, fornication, strangled, then blood, and then turn around and just a few verses later and say idols, things offered to idols, blood, strangled, then fornication? It's completely different. Which one is the most important? What are we supposed to understand? I mean, is fornication somehow less? It's too much for me. I don't even know. I'm so confused by this. It's just not real. There's no way a prophet wrote these words. There is just no way this ball of confusion was written by a prophet. Everything is out of order. There's no way I could even, if it was all backwards, then okay, fine. If it was, it doesn't have to be in perfect order for you to maybe change a few things here or there. But literally, the only thing that is first is pollution of idols. The only thing that's in order is that. Everything else has been mixed up. There's just there's no possible way. This is not real. This is not real. And I'm not, maybe to you it seems like I'm exaggerating. But I've read these words enough to know that this was not written by a prophet. Not with all this confusion in here. This was added in. Incidentally, yeah, never mind. I don't want to get off on another topic. Let's just continue on. So the original sentence said, just real quick, the original sentence said, but we write unto them that they abstain from pollutions of idols and from fornication, period. This was added on at the end. Then here is in maintain the same order, that ye abstain from meats offered with idols and from fornication, from which if you keep yourselves ye shall do well. Then they just added this in here, and instead of putting it in the correct order, they transposed it and they revealed their lie. Because when I read it up here, I had no reason to be suspicious, even though I saw the extra ands added. It was not nearly enough for me to even, I wasn't even suspicious of it. I had always believed this. I have always believed it. I think I've even spoken on it before. Had no reason to believe it. But when I was reading carefully, I noticed that the extra ands were in there. That's the only thing I noticed. I just wasn't looking for it. Okay. Anyway, let's continue on. I think that was all. Okay, so that's all for this. We just wanted to point out that all of this, they're going to make reference to this. That's why I wanted to read that before. So let's go back to Acts 21. Hold on. Oh, I'm under circumcision still. So let's go back to our original study here, which was Paul. So let's read through this. And when we were come to Jerusalem, the brethren received us gladly. And in the days following, Paul went in with us into James, and all the elders were present. And when he had saluted them, he declared particularly what things God had wrought among the Gentiles by his ministry. And I'm seeing right now that I got this wrong. This is a recount of that day. This is everything that happened in Acts 15. He's just recounting the day here. He's not making reference to it. All of this is extra that supposedly had happened. We just wasted our time reading all of that stuff. I will tell you what. They recount this day. They do the same thing in Galatians. Anyway. And when they had heard it, they glorified the Lord and said unto him, Thou seest, brother, how many thousands of Jews there are which believe, and they are all zealous of the law. And they are informed. I'm so... I can't believe I didn't notice that before. I study a lot for these videos. Okay, we could continue on. Okay. And they are informed of thee, that thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses, saying that they ought not to circumcise their children, neither walk after the customs. Remember, I was telling you, when you read these things and you understand that it's not a law, when you know what you're looking at, they don't actually say it's a law. They say, forsake Moses, ought not to circumcise their children, neither walk after the customs. It's identified as a custom. What is it therefore? The multitude must needs come together, for they will hear that thou art come. Do therefore this, that we say to thee, we have 4 men which have a vow on them. So here's the Nazarite part. They're trying to convince Paul to do a show of piety in order to prove to the people of God that he is he's still a worthy Jew, I guess. And so they're going to tell him, I don't think they're going to come right out and say Nazarite. They're going to imply that he needs to take the Nazarite vow. So let's just read through it. Do therefore this, that we say to thee. We have 4 men which have a vow on them. So the implication is the Nazarite vow. Remember that. They never say it because they need you to use your own imagination to conjure up these things just in case they make mistakes. When they make a lot of them. Well, no, they don't, considering all the lies that they have in here. Let's just be real. It's hard to find those lies sometimes. Take and purify thyself with them, as though he's not pure. But we read the Nazarite vow, and it said you are holy until you complete the Nazarite vow. All of the days that you are going through the Nazarite vow, you're holy. And once you complete it, the implication is that once you complete it, you're no longer holy. Otherwise, what's the point? If you're holy all the days that you're completing the Nazarite vow, what's the goal? Piety? Vanity? Pride? Then take and purify thyself with them, and be at the charges with them. So he's supposed to pay the expenses. Paul is broke. That they may shave their heads. Now they've taken a vow. They've set it up. Remember, you don't shave your heads until the end. So I guess they're going to go on with the vow until they find some poor schmuck to pay the bill for them. Because it's very expensive. It's not for the poor. And all may know that those things whereof they were informed concerning thee are nothing. Why? Because they get to walk around proud. But that thou thyself also walkest orderly. How is them shaving their heads going to prove that Paul is pious? Does that make sense to you? This doesn't make any sense. Do you see how ridiculous this is? It's just... But anyway, let's continue on. And keepest the law. So now, the only laws... Let's go back and read it, because this is just too much. Hold on. It says, in order to take the Nazarite vow, you separate yourself from wine, strong drink. Wine with strong drink. No vinegar of wine, no vinegar of strong drink. Neither shall you drink any liquors of grapes, nor eat moist grapes or dried. All the days of his separation shall he eat nothing that is made of the vine tree. Then also, during the days of his separation, no razor shall come upon his head. Then also, if he comes upon a dead body will make him unclean. So if he comes in contact with a dead body, he has to start over. There is nothing in here about keeping the law. Nothing. We read through all of this. There's nothing in here about keeping a law. That thou thyself walkest orderly and keepest the law. It's a false sense of piety if that's what it's supposed to be showing. Because there's nothing in there about keeping the law. Because there's no law that says you can't drink from or eat from the vine tree. There's no law that says that you can't be near a dead body or you consider it unclean. There's no law that says you can't shave your head if you want to. None of this is true. None of it. As touching the Gentiles which believe, we have written and concluded. We, as though he was not a part of that, stood up, talked with everyone. This is what made me think it wasn't even the same day. Was because I skipped all that part right up there, just read through it very quickly. And I just went down here to the crux of the Nazarite part. And when it said we have written and concluded, I was like, wait a second. We? Why is he telling them we? As though they had done it. So that's why I missed that this is actually a recount of the events. And it had to be, I don't know. Their lives are always confusing, to be sure. It really takes a lot of investigation. Not a lot. It really takes some investigations sometimes to figure out what they mean by these deceptions. But as touching the Gentiles which believe, we have written and concluded that they observe no such thing, save only that they keep themselves from things offered to idols, and from blood, and from strangled, and from fornication. Now they have it in the right order. No, they don't. I just cannot. I cannot. It's not in the right order. It's in the right order of the second one, but it's not in the right order of the first, the original mention of it. Then Paul took them in, and the next day purified himself with them, entering into the temple to signify the accomplishment of the days of purification. That is not what it said to be done. But I don't remember, so let's go. I know I've got it marked in yellow for some reason. So it would have been to signify the hold on. Let's read this again. Paul took them in, and the next day purified himself with them. Oh, this is where I was confused, okay? Because I couldn't figure out what exactly was Paul trying to do here. When I read this, it says he took them in the next day, purified himself with them. By purifying himself, that means he completed. Let's go back. Let me mark this and go back. He completed his purification. And that means it was just a couple of hours that he was purifying himself, right? Let's search for purifying. Oh, it's not in here. Type it right. Okay, well. What then is meant by purify yourself? Sorry, guys. You just have to get through this together. Purifying himself with them, entering into the temple. They have to mean that he. Okay, I was right originally. He just went in, took the vow, just didn't drink it for a couple of hours, woke up the next day, and decided, let's go to the temple and then we'll complete the vow, right? So there's no time limit because he did it the very next day. He entered into the temple the very next day, purified himself with them, meaning he completed it, entered himself with them, entering into the temple. By entering into the temple, remember they said they stood outside the door of the temple first, and then they had to go into the temple in order to offer the wave offering, to signify the accomplishment of the days of purification. But it wasn't a full day, because he had just spoken with this man the day before, and he told him to go do it in order to look pious amongst the people. Until that, an offering should be offered for every one of them. So I guess they went, purified themselves first, and then they would make the offering later. But see, they did this, and then somebody realized, hey, this doesn't look right. So then they come back with the lie. No, I should say more lies to try and correct this lie. And when the 7 days were almost ended, the Jews which were of Asia, when they saw him in the temple, stirred up all the people and laid hands on him. When the 7 days were almost ended, what 7 days? They made a mistake. The 7 days which they're speaking of comes from a misreading of the 7 days. If any man die very suddenly by him, and has defiled his head of his consecration, then he shall shave his head in the day of his cleansing. On the 7th day he shall shave it. They read this and they misunderstood it to mean that the purification lasted 7 days, when in actuality there is no number of days in which it's allocated for the purification. He literally went in the next day and purified himself the next day. But they misread this, and so the person that came along afterwards added in when the 7 days were almost ended. He goes back to the temple. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen. None of that happened. This is all just added in to support the lie of the Nazarite vow. But there is no such thing amongst the children of God. I just want to make sure I didn't have anything else marked down here. That's where I stopped. But there is no such thing amongst the children of God. This is actually against God. It is a symbolic representation of your disdain for God. And turning, no, not your disdain for God. That's not correct. Of you turning away from God and turning to Satan. That's the picture that is trying to draw. First, the grapes, which represent the vine tree, the vine, which Jesus says he is. Then you have the hair. Oh, we didn't look at the hair. Do I have scriptures for the hair? I have 2 more scriptures in here I want to look at. I know I have scriptures for the hair. I just don't know where I put them. Oh, right here. Let's look at these real quick, because I had forgot about these. We're going to have to go really quick, guys. Make thee bald and poll thee for thy delicate children. Enlarge thy baldness as the eagle, for they are gone into captivity from thee. He's shaving his head for mourning because he's sad. And she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thine handmaid, and remember me, and not forget thine handmaid, but will give unto thine handmaid a man child, then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head. This is Samuel. This is Samuel, and they added this part in to imply that Samuel was a Nazarite from birth. Lies. When they went to identify Samuel, when Saul went to the witch to identify Samuel, let's look at how she describes him. And the king said unto her, Be not afraid, for what sawest thou? And the woman said unto Saul, I saw gods ascending out of the earth. And he said unto her, And he said unto her, what form is he of? And she said, an old man cometh up, and he is covered with a mantle. And Saul perceived that it was Samuel. Why? Because he always wore that mantle that the mantle that his mother used to make him. That's a coat. His mother used to make him a coat and bring it out to him. Nothing at all about the long hair that would have been on this man if he never cut his hair. Not a mention, not anything implying whatsoever that Samuel had long hair. No, it's just a lie. Then Job arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head and fell down upon the ground and worshipped. I don't remember the circumstance of this. Well, that's when everything began to happen. It's in Job 1. Cut off thine hair, O Jerusalem, and cast it away, and take up a lamentation on high places, for the Lord has rejected and forsaken the generation of his wrath. Both the great and the small shall die in this land. They shall not be buried, neither shall men lament for them, nor cut themselves, nor make themselves bald for them. For every head shall be bald, and every beard clipped. Upon all the hands shall be cuttings, and upon the loins sackcloth. This is things that they did in the day. Not saying that they're right. They're not right. This is things that they did to show sadness and mourning. And now, son of man, take thee a sharp knife, take thee a barber's razor, and cause it to pass upon thine head and upon thy beard, and take thee balances to weigh and divide the hair. Thou shalt burn with fire a third part in the midst of the city, when the days of the siege are fulfilled, and thou shalt take a third part and smite about it with a knife, and a third part thou shalt scatter in the winds, and I will draw out a sword after them. Thou shalt also take thereof a few in number, and bind them in thine skirts. These are people that are being sent through the fire. This is a representation of people being sent through the fire. Wrath, punishment. The shaving of the head is the mourning. This going into the fire is always a sign of tribulation or wrath of some sort. Take them again and cast them into the midst of the fire and burn them with fire, for thereof shall the fire come forth into all the house of Israel. Okay, so let's go back because we have 2 more verses under Paul that we want to look at. Oh no, only one. Oh, we've already done that one, so we were good. We made good time. So we have made good time on this video. We're going to stop there. I think I said everything I had to say about this. Yeah. Paul was not, he did not take a Nazarite vow. And if he did, they certainly should have written it better than this, because it doesn't make any sense. If it were true, does it really matter? Because he just did it for piety. He did it for show, to show people things. He literally, look, Paul had to die because he took Timothy to get circumcised, I think it was. I think he caused Timothy to be circumcised. He had to die because of that. Sister White, I think, writes it in her. That's where I read it. Had he not taken Timothy to have been circumcised, he would not have had to die in Rome. It was because he did that specifically, that he had to die. He was wrong to do that. He knew it was a custom. Jesus spent all of his time fighting these customs. And Paul upheld it. And he knew it was wrong. He knew it was wrong. That's why he fought against it so hard there. But the reason why I thought of that was because he also fought against Peter when Peter was acting pious amongst the Gentiles. How in the world are you going to tell the Gentiles that they don't have to keep a custom, and then you turn around and you keep one yourself? I want to say, I just can't see it of Paul. It's not becoming of the image that I have of Paul. That doesn't really mean anything, I know. It just doesn't. But when you consider the weight that the faith that God had put in him as a representation to the Gentiles, then that ought to carry some weight. He was punished for what he did, for his actions of making Timothy be circumcised. He was punished for that. So I mean, that was just a wrong thing to do. But this act of piety is just not becoming of the character that I see for him, and I certainly don't think it's becoming of the character, given that Jesus, who spoke to him personally and taught him personally, went through almost the entire Bible trying to undo those customs. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I think I've said enough. I will talk with you. We're going to do Samson next. I'm going to try and do it now. It's going to be a separate video, but because Samson was declared a Nazarite, I think it'll be nice to actually go ahead and do that video so that we'll be able to view all of them together. But we're just going to do a quick read through of Samson because everything is pretty obvious there. All right, I will talk with you in the next video.